Hello everyone and welcome to Janet's Craft Corner. Today we are painting the Jolly Bowls farmhouse sign. A pretty simple little paint, but it does have a few little extra flourishes on it. I've already painted my white, which is not unusual for me. I usually do that for all of my painting during the week on Monday, but now we're going to paint all the rest of the pieces. So we're going to start with some pink. Get some paint out here. There we go. Don't need too much of any color because there's not a whole lot of any even color, but there's enough that we gotta do some little paintings there. So, okay, so we're gonna get our pink. We're gonna paint this bowl pink and this stripe pink, which is gonna go on one of the smaller bowls, the lower bowls, I guess. This is one of those pieces where none of these pieces are very large, so they're going to all be hard, but this one's really hard to do because you cannot go off the edges because it's just so thin. We normally try to paint from the inside out on any of these pieces, and it's just too much on this one. Okay, so there's our pink painted. And then this here is our background, and it's kind of a gray color. So I have to open a new bottle of gray, so let me get this open. Sorry about that. I should have opened it before we started. So these are part of our brand new Christmas baking series. I think you guys will really like them. They're really cute. There's a door hanger and some farmhouse signs and a shelf sitter, a couple other things. I think you'll really enjoy them. But let's get this gray out here. If you're using a new bottle, you really need to shake it up good, which I hopefully did good enough. And then get us some out. And a lot of times when I'm doing these kind of big pieces, I'll put a little bit on there that's just kind of the starting point, kind of here in the middle, and we'll work our way out from there. So give me a brush. And let's just start working our way out from the middle with this paint we've got here. And you want it always, whenever you're doing a piece, especially if it's a larger piece like this, when it really can be done truly fully, you want to try to paint from the middle out. Probably didn't need, I got a little more paint than I need even on here, but I don't need that pile on the thing. And when you do this and you've got too much paint, just grab some up, take it over here and put it on your palette and wipe it off. Not a big deal. It's a little wasteful, I guess, but not a really big deal. I do just have way too much gray paint here. Got ahead of myself, didn't I? Oh no, I got a little excited. So we're gonna. Sometimes you'll get little, especially in the beginning, a new bottle, you'll get little pieces like that are kind of chunky, I guess is the best word for them. Just work their way off and use the paint palette to put them off on the tray or off on the. I'm putting them off on the tape here, but it doesn't really matter whether you do it on the tray or the tape. But as much as you can come off, like I just want to cross that edge, so I'm going to clean that edge. Come from the middle and work your way out. And if you catch it quickly like I just did on this edge, you can usually clean it with a wet wipe. So that's what I'm going to try to do so I don't have to clean it later. If you don't, I'm going to show you when we get to when we're about ready to assemble how to do edging on your pieces, because the bowls are going to need to be edged. They're just too small. But I'm going to pull a wet wipe out here for this gray, and I'm basically just going to take and run it right along that edge from the outside up. And I do that so that I get that paint that I kind of messed up on, where I wasn't paying attention. I went along the edge rather than from the outside in. And I'm worried about the top. Yep, I did it up there too, because I was talking and not paying a lot of attention. But if you get it quickly like I just did, then you can just use a wet wipe on it, and we won't have to edge that piece at least. I got a piece right there that's got a little clump in it, so I'm just going to use my finger, pull it off, and put it on there. Same thing over here. There we go. Okay, that takes care of that. Now then, let's do some red here. I have two bowls in this one I'm doing red. One has the word jolly on it, the other one has just one of the stripes, the stripe piece on it. And again, I'm trying hard to move from the center out, but when you get to pieces that are these sizes, it's kind of sometimes hard. But also try not to get too much paint on your brush, so that you don't have paint globbing up on your edges, even if you do paint from an edge on. Other than that, they're pretty much easy to do. And then in this one I've got some dotting and I've got some shading. So as soon as I get this red on here, we're going to do some red dotting. When you're dotting, you can do one of two things. You can use a brush. You can use the tip end of a brush. Like say this end of this brush. And that's going to give, this one is pretty good size, so it's going to give you some pretty big dots. Or you can buy a set of styluses that have little tips on them. And that's what I'm going to use some of my styluses. I have a set stuck over here. I'm going to pull a couple of those out here. Pull me out. My red, I'm going to do some red dots on this white piece. So I'm going to go with kind of a mid-size one. Let's go with this one. And then for that, you're just actually going to reach it down and dip it in your paint. You want to dip it so that you're not going all the way down to the edge of your, to the bottom of your palette, because you don't want to take it off the tip end. You want to keep it on the tip end. And then you're just going to touch it down on your piece. And you can be as random as you want to be. I don't do random well, so I'm not being random. I'm going to kind of go in a pattern. And it's not important that all your dots be the same size. That one's a little bit on the small side, but it's okay, because we're not looking for perfection here. Remember, this is a handmade gift or handmade item. So we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for just a kind of a nice look. See, I touched the bottom there. And can you tell? See, because I don't have nothing there. Almost no paint on my stylus. And that's what happens when you touch the bottom. If you're like me and you feel like you have to do a little bit of a pattern, then that's okay. What I do is make sure I alternate where I put them. So this row there, I don't know, maybe ½ inch apart. And then the next row, I'm going to kind of go between those two dots. And there is going to be a piece on here that's red. So some of these are going to be underneath that piece. But I found the easiest way to do these is just to ignore the fact that there's going to be a piece laying on it and go across. Because you'll never quite get it right if you try to think about which ones are going to be on the piece and which ones are going to be off the piece, and it just never quite comes out right. I've learned. Problem I'm having right now, as you can tell, my hand sticks to the tape, and it's a normal problem. You try to hold your hand up as much as possible, but when you're up above things like this, it's kind of hard. So I'm trying to put the very edge of my palm down. And in some cases, you may end up like here. I should have one like probably right about there. It's kind of going to go off the edge of the bowl. That's okay. It's going around the bowl. A bowl's a round thing, not a flat thing. So it's okay if you just see the edge of one. Sometimes you get a little bit of paint, and sometimes you get a lot of paint, and it's okay. Not a big deal. Just keep going. It doesn't matter if they're all the same size. Okay, there we go, and then we're going to use our wet wipe to clean off the end of that. Okay. And then the last color we have in this piece is we have green. So I'm going to get my green out. And we're going to get us a brush that will work well with our green. I think this will work. Kind of trying to find a brush that actually may still be too big. That kind of balances between a bigger brush for this and smaller brushes for that. So I don't have to have two brushes. That's what I'm trying to pull off here. will say when you do dots, and we're going to do some more here in a minute, but when you do dots, you do need a little bit more paint left over when you're done, so you can't quite be as skimpy on your paint as you normally would be. You'll notice some of these trees aren't full trees because they're going to kind of go off the edge of where the bowls are stacked inside each other. Our little pile here is going to look like a stack of bowls with them inside each other and coming out, each one coming out a little bit from the one they're inside below. Make sure, I just had places there that I didn't get all the way out to my edge. Make sure you're getting all the way out to your edges. Okay, that takes care of our green. And then we're going to do some green dots on this one, kind of behind the tree. So we don't want them to be too heavy. You can touch down the very first time and then we'll come up and scroll it around in your paint a little bit and then just put your dots across. Like, I'm going to think about how this bowl is. So I'm going to go at this angle, not at the straight across, because I want it to go with the bowl. And I have a bad tendency of getting mine too close together. And again, this one has trees on it, and some of these are going to be behind or partially behind a tree, but I'm not adjusting at all for that. It won't change the way the trees attach. The glue will go down fine around the little dots. And they're not thick enough to affect that. There I have one that kind of comes off the edge. Okay, there's our green dot. We have a couple that are dotted white. The green bowl has white dots too. Just like on the pink one, we got to watch which direction our stripes, I guess, of dots are going, because again, this is sitting in there crooked, and we had to do that on this red one here too. Not quite as bad on that one as we did on these other two. Okay, so I'm actually going to pause the video at this point and let these dry. I will tell you before I do, the reason I'm doing that is that I'm going to do some shading and I'm going to do some edging on these pieces before I glue them together. And even with not doing that, just gluing them straight together, when you do dots, they are thicker And so it will be a problem if you try to do stuff on top of the dots right now. They will smear. So I'm going to pause it and let these dots dry, and then I will come back later. Okay, we're back and we're ready to start doing our edging. So I'm going to take the pieces off and check them. That one's okay, and see if they need to be edged. The ones that I did up here in the top that were done with the sponge definitely won't need to be edged. But anything that was done with a brush might need to be edged. A lot of times it will. Like this one does. If you can see that, let's see, pull that way. See how kind of that edge is not black like this one is? That one's got even a little bit of error on it. But see how that first one was really not? It was kind of smudgy. That's what you're looking for when you're doing edging, is to try to make sure they still look kind of black on the edges with very little of the paint over the sides. And then I'm using a marker to do my edging, just because I think it's easier, but you can also use a brush. The thing you want to do with a marker and with a brush is make sure you're coming on from the back side. So like with a brush, that would mean that you are taking it and holding it like this to paint it, so that you're not risking getting it down onto the painted surface. Some people don't feel like you need to edge at all, and it just kind of depends on how neat or not neat I was. That first white one I was really bad, so that's why I'm edging. As I'm looking at the rest of these, they're really not too bad, but since I started the process on this, I might as well finish it. You're going to get a little bit of an edge. There's just almost no way to keep from getting at least a little bit of an edge on there. Even with the sponge, you get a little bit of an edge, but you get a very uniform edge. So as long as it's not real blotchy, real lumpy, I guess would be the better word for it, then it doesn't probably need to be edged. And just to, remember, these are handmade, homemade products, so they don't have to be perfect. You can do them in ways that will not require they don't need edging all the time. And the darker the color, the less likely it's going to need edging. See here, the only thing that really needs edging is where those two dots came over the edge. Again, just where that dot came over the edge. The darker the paint that you're putting on, the less likely you're going to need to edge. And see, I didn't need to do too much edging, just mainly those pink and white pieces. Okay, so now then we are ready to start assembling. And I always say you should lay it out first, just to make sure that you have all of your pieces and that they all go on here correctly. And then you'll glue, and I'll kind of glue a couple pieces for you, but I'm not going to make you sit here all day and watch me glue everything. So you've got the basics here. So all that little kind of edges, I guess, cut out sort of, where the things lay. They're engraved marks, is basically what they are. And you're going to paint over those pretty clean, pretty much all of them, but you can still see them. So there's basically what it's going to look like. I'll glue this top piece down, and then I'm going to just I'll do the rest of it off camera, so you don't have to watch me glue everything. But you can just see that I just put a little line of glue on there and then put it in place. I use Precision Arts craft glue. It is I think they call it glitter art glue. I'm not sure why they have the word glitter in it, but I like it because it lets you move a little bit. When you put things down, it gives you a few seconds of movement time, but then it holds really good. And unlike hot glue, it does not change in the heat. And unlike super glue, it gives you a little bit of time to slide it when you put it on there to make sure that you get it in the right place. So you can see there's how that goes, and I'm just, I will work my way down that stack. I do recommend you start in one place and work your way either across or up or down, any of those directions. But there you go. This is what I didn't do the edging. We're gonna do some edging, guys. You can do some shading and edging on these, and these, I think the red and the green ones need a little bit of white, so it kind of looks like it's got an edge up there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this is a dauber. It's I like it because, and it's going to be hard to do on that rip. It's the dauber that I like because I just think like it makes it easy to do. And when you're doing with the dauber, you want to make sure you unload it as much as possible, and then just kind of touch your edge. And I'm trying not to make sure that I don't get it down on that gray here on this piece, to just give you a little bit of extra dimension. And then I'm going to do the green one, and I think I think this just adds a little bit. Not, you don't have to do all of the pieces. You can just do some of the pieces. You can do all of them if you want, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just do these pieces. I may do some on the outside edges of the square, I don't know. And then this piece, I think that adds a little bit to those pieces, to have that edge kind of there, because that's what a bowl really looks like. You're not going to see it much on, I could do it on the pink and the white, but you're not going to really see it on those. That's kind of what a bowl really looks like. You kind of got usually an edge where you can kind of see the inside. You can always add other little pieces of embellishment. Let your creativity just run wild. You can do whatever you want to do on these. That adds a little bit to those two. So let me put these pieces back together, and then I'll hold it up for you so you can see it nice and clear. Because it's a good ways down there, you can't really see all the details, can you? And there we go. There's what our Jolly Bowls farmhouse sign looks like. And this goes in, you can display it just as a leaner, just like this, or there's a little set of easel stands you can buy to hold it on, or it can go in, we've got a couple of frames that it can go in, or a breadboard that it can sit on. And I have a breadboard, I have two breadboards, I think. No, I have one breadboard and one frame that I switch out for every holiday, and I really love those. So that's the Jolly Bowls farmhouse sign. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for joining.